The night I learned my mother was alive was the same night I realized my father had been murdered for a secret he never told me. From that moment on, every shadow watched me, every voice lied to me, and every person I loved could be the one who wanted me dead. My name is Selena Vayner, and I can still remember the night when everything shifted. Life has a way of disguising its sharpest turns in ordinary moments, and that evening began like any other. I was walking home from the office, clutching a folder filled with reports that no one would ever read, when the call came that would dismantle everything I thought I knew. The city was alive with its usual contradictions, neon lights buzzing above cracked sidewalks, the smell of rain on concrete mixing with the scent of food carts. I answered my phone without thinking, already expecting the polite, mechanical voice of my boss reminding me of another deadline. Instead, it was a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Selena," the man said, just my name spoken low like a warning. For a second I couldn't place it. Then my chest tightened. It was Daniel. Daniel, the man I had once trusted with my future. The man who vanished without explanation, leaving only a note that read, "I can't stay." Hearing him again was like reopening a wound I had trained myself to ignore. "What do you want?" I asked, though my voice came out shakier than I intended. "There isn't time to explain," he said quickly. "You need to listen to me. Whatever you do, don't go back to your apartment tonight." I froze on the sidewalk, the rain starting to drizzle, dampening my hair. I looked around, half expecting to see him in the crowd, watching me. "Why not?" I whispered. "Because they're already there," he said. "And if you walk through that door, you won't walk back out." The line went dead. I stood there, heart hammering against my ribs, clutching the useless phone like it might anchor me to something real. 1,000 questions crashed through my mind. Who were they? Why was Daniel suddenly back after all this time? And why did his voice sound like desperation wrapped in fear? Every instinct told me to ignore him, to brush off the warning as some twisted attempt to crawl back into my life. But curiosity, and something else, something deeper, pushed me toward the street corner. I caught a cab and told the driver my address. When we pulled up, the building looked the same. Worn red bricks, a flickering hallway light, the window to my unit glowing faintly from the lamp I always left on. But there was a black SUV parked across the street, its windows too darkly tinted. 2 men sat inside, silhouettes barely visible, not moving, not even pretending to be ordinary. My stomach knotted. Daniel hadn't been lying. I paid the driver and walked away in the opposite direction, careful not to look back. My mind was racing. If I couldn't go home, where could I go? My few friends lived too far, and my coworkers were acquaintances at best. Then, like muscle memory, I thought of the one place no one would expect me to return to. My father's house. I hadn't set foot there since his funeral 3 years ago. The memories attached to that place were heavy. His long shadow in every room. His silence louder than his words. But maybe that was exactly why it was safe. Nobody would think I'd willingly reopen those wounds. The cab dropped me off at the edge of Maplewood, where the streets grew quieter and the houses leaned into shadows. My father's old house loomed at the end of the block, its porch light long since broken, its windows like unblinking eyes. I fished out the spare key I had never thrown away, and when the lock clicked open, I felt an ache ripple through me. Inside, the air smelled of dust and abandonment. The furniture sat draped in white sheets, and the silence was oppressive. I dropped my bag by the door and locked it behind me, then leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. I should have felt relief. Instead, the unease grew. And then I saw it. On the coffee table in the living room, beneath a thin layer of dust, lay a single object that shouldn't have been there. A silver locket. I knew it instantly. It had belonged to my mother, the mother who had vanished when I was a child, leaving behind only whispers and questions my father never answered. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The clasp had been broken years ago, but now it was repaired. And inside, instead of the old photograph I remembered, was something new, a folded scrap of paper. Opened it. For words stared back at me. Trust no one, Selena. A floorboard creaked upstairs. I wasn't alone. The sound upstairs froze me in place. My grip on the locket tightened as if it could protect me. I forced my breathing to be quiet, listening. One step, then another, deliberate and slow, like whoever was above me wanted me to know I wasn't alone. I backed toward the kitchen, my eyes darting for anything that could double as a weapon. My father's house had always felt haunted by silence, but now it pulsed with something darker. The footsteps stopped. I swallowed hard, waiting. Then, with a sudden burst, the sound of running erupted down the stairs. I didn't think. I just grabbed the closest thing, a rusted iron candlestick from the counter. The figure that appeared wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a man in black. It wasn't some shadowy agent from the SUV outside my apartment. It was a woman. She looked to be in her late 40s, her hair streaked with silver, her coat too thin for the weather. But what struck me most were her eyes. Wide, frantic, and strangely familiar. "Elira," she whispered, as if she had been waiting years to say my name. I froze, my makeshift weapon still raised. "Who are you?" She took a step closer, then stopped, her breath catching. "You don't remember me, do you?" Her words unsettled me. Something about the curve of her cheek, the tilt of her mouth, stirred a memory I couldn't place. "I asked you who you are," I demanded, my voice sharper than I felt inside. She hesitated, then pulled something from her coat pocket, a worn photograph. She held it out with trembling fingers. Against my better judgment, I took it. It was a picture of my father, younger, standing with a woman whose face mirrored the one before me. My chest tightened. "Oh, it couldn't be." "I'm your mother," she said softly. "And I don't have much time." The room tilted, my knees nearly giving way. My mother was dead. That was what my father had always said, what I had always believed. She had vanished when I was a child, leaving nothing but a broken locket and unanswered questions. "You're lying," I whispered, though the word rang hollow. "I wish I were." Her eyes glistened. "But if you want to survive what's coming, you have to trust me." Trust. The word echoed painfully, colliding with the memory of Daniel's voice on the phone and the note in the locket. "Trust no one, Elira." My pulse hammered. "If you're my mother, then tell me where you've been all these years. Tell me why you left me." Before she could answer, a crash split the silence. A window shattered at the back of the house. Both of us turned, adrenaline spiking. "They found us," she hissed. She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "We have to go. Now." I wanted answers, needed them, but the urgency in her grip told me that survival came first. I followed her through the back door, the night air biting cold against my skin. We sprinted through the yard and down an alley, her breath ragged but determined. Behind us, voices shouted, "Male rough, too close." We ducked into a narrow passage between two crumbling buildings, pressing ourselves against the wall as footsteps thundered past. My mother's hand still clutched mine, and despite the fear, I felt an ache of something buried, something like belonging. When the footsteps faded, she finally spoke again, her words low but urgent. "They'll never stop until you find it." "Find what?" I whispered back. She turned to me, her face drawn with both sorrow and resolve. "The truth your father died protecting." Her words sank into me like ice. My father hadn't simply died. He had been protecting something. And now it was my burden. Before I could press further, she handed me a folded map, edges torn, ink faded. "This is where it begins. Don't lose it." Another shout rang out, closer this time. She shoved me toward the street. "Go! I'm not leaving you," I protested. Her eyes softened, almost breaking. "You have to." And then, before I could argue, she pushed me hard into the shadows. By the time I scrambled to my feet, she was gone, swallowed by the night or taken by the men chasing us. I clutched the map to my chest, trembling. Alone again, abandoned. But this time with more questions than I could bear. As I stumbled down the dark street, one thought cut through the chaos, sharper than all the rest. If my mother were alive, if my father died protecting something, if Daniel had warned me not to go home, then nothing in my life had ever been what it seemed. and someone somewhere was playing a game with me as their pawn.